That Donald Trump is kind of flipped on immigration. All he's got left is extreme vetting, I guess.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, honestly, there's a conversation that needs to be had about Hillary Clinton's emails, and we will today, because there are more developments here. But Donald Trump last night really kind of turned his own major hook for a lot of you who want to vote for him on its own, petard. I mean, he just hoisted himself. We'll talk about that coming up, and also our guest that I'm happy to have in, Omar Bah, is a specialist on the refugee issue. And since so many of us are concerned about our national security and how we do this and how we actually have this thing called immigration reform ever happen, it's nice to have him in, and he will be my guest coming up in a moment. I hope you had a good weekend. I'm here on Tuesday because I had a long week. I was in Saratoga this weekend. Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. Although there's some challenges up there. They've lost 9 horses in the meet so far. So they've got to tighten up their conversation as to whether to run on dirt or the artificial stuff. But that's a show for another day. But it's a great family trip up there, or for the boys generally. All right, let's move on and get going here. We've got a lot to do on the rundown. Yeah, this was the story that broke today. I know everyone's kind of in a tizzy over the idea that we're going to get some money. Here's the headline at WPRI.com, where you always get the story, close to first, if not first. $26 million settlement. And, of course, the Boston Herald is jumping in here because Curt Schilling is such a Boston attraction. Note that $26 million is the take here. That's the gross. The net's 21 and change. Why? Because lawyers make a lot of money negotiating these settlements. Judge Francis Darrigan, who's retired in the Superior Court, was mediating this case between 2 of the big banks and the state of Rhode Island. Here's what he had to say.
We were able to strike an agreement. Well, as I said, the agreement wasn't lauded by everybody as being wonderful, but it was an end to a very, very contentious litigation, the cost of which would have been compounded if the matter had gone to a jury trial before Judge Silverstein, and that was part of it.
So Barclays and Wells Fargo are the 2 big financiers, the banks that were in litigation here. So they cry uncle, and they're out of the case. Remaining still is First Southwest, the financial advisor to the state, and of course the culprits, and I say that in a half a quote here, who ran 38 studios, Curt Schilling et al. The Providence Journal tried to chase down Curt Schilling for a response, and the tweeting is going on. I mean, you want to look for somebody, you tweet them. Paul Edward Parker, who's following this case, wondering, what old Curt thinks about this whole thing, da-da-da-da-da, and First Southwest reportedly is headed to trial. I'm not so sure that's the case. But Schilling says he wants to go to trial, has been saying he wants to go to trial in October. So he says good for them, meaning, I guess, those who settled, talking about the scam, and, it's our fault because we elected the people that actually shoved it down his company's throat. And he's been saying all along that he wants the taxpayers to know the story. So he's got to get that done. And then, of course, he's got another project that he's thinking about, which, of course, is running for office. So it's going to be a busy fall for Curt Schilling. Just note that we still have $61 million short in all of this legal work. 61 million taxpayer dollars still remain to be paid to the bondholders. So don't be clicking your heels over this settlement quite yet. All right, so Hillary Clinton tries to calm everybody with a little bit of humor. Headline here, it's all about the health, right? Everybody wants to know how she's feeling, and of course her latest thing is what's going on with the additional 15,000 emails that have become public that the FBI has said is there. And of course Judicial Watch, a conservative think tank, is suing her, and she's got to respond in September in writing to the judge in that lawsuit. But now, if you really want to get the story out, forget the serious journalists, just head to Kimmel.
We've already released, 30,000 plus, so what's a few more?
Clinton tried to use humor to diffuse the latest controversy over her emails.
Have you considered using FaceTime instead of email?
Actually, I think that's really good advice.
Not a bad idea.
But in Akron, Ohio, Donald Trump and his supporters didn't find it that funny.
Now we learn about another 15,000 emails she failed to turn over, and they've just been discovered.
On Jimmy Kimmel Live, Clinton tackled a Trump lie about her health.
Take my pulse while I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Make sure I'm alive.
Trump and his allies have repeatedly insinuated she's unwell.
She also lacks the mental and physical stamina.
Clinton's doctor said last year she is in excellent health.
It's part of the wacky strategy. Just say all these crazy things and maybe you can get some people to believe you.
Trump used the same approach to go after Clinton's family charity on Monday.
The Clinton Foundation constitute a clear example of RICO, racketeering, influence, corrupt organization enterprise.
He insisted foundation donors got favors from Clinton's State Department, and he called for a special prosecutor.
It's criminality. Everybody knows it.
The State Department said it's not true.
We have seen no evidence of any behavior, any relations with the Clinton Foundation that weren't completely above board.
All right, so you hear that Donald looking for a special prosecutor. His son is, part of the act. I mean, the whole team is asking for some kind of special that. Eric Trump is, constantly in the headlines as well in Politico. He says, hey, listen, I mean, she's making a joke out of national security by talking about her emails being boring. They're trying to put a full court press on here. Let me say, based on all the reading that I've done, it doesn't seem like there's any real teeth to a special prosecutorial request. There just doesn't seem to be any. I mean, there's a lot of cross communication. Well, there's a handful of cross communication events over the years that have occurred between the foundation and the Secretary of State's office, meaning the State Department. But the truth be told, I mean, these are major heads of state and major donors that are working in the international field that the Clinton Foundation raises money for and does, admittedly, some pretty good work. Now, their admin costs are, hefty, in the 10-11% range, but so far, other than a feeling, I don't think anybody's got anything to stick. And Donald Trump certainly hasn't been credible in terms of his accusations. So unless there's another voice looking for a special prosecutor, I don't see how that sticks. In the meantime, Donald Trump is really kind of gearing back. This headline is interesting. He cancels his big speech on immigration, perhaps thinking that the State Department / email / foundation thing is getting some traction. I don't know. Here's the latest.
We're going to build the wall, folks. We're going to build the wall.
Donald Trump clung to that applause line like a rhetorical life raft in Akron, Ohio, amid muddy explanations of his once unambiguous pledge to deport all undocumented U.S. residents.
We're going to obey the existing laws.
Trump now talks of deporting only hardened criminals and felons.
The first thing we're going to do, if and when I win, is we're going to get rid of all of the bad ones. As far as everybody else, we're going to go through the process.
Trump would not explain what that process was or how it would work, but he no longer insists it includes raids, arrests, and lengthy deportation proceedings.
You don't have to put them in a detention center.
All right, so I'm
not going to put them in a detention center. No.
A newly formed Hispanic Advisory Council informed Trump Saturday of the logistical and legal challenges tied to mass deportations. Now he's dialing things back while simultaneously wooing minority voters.
It is a disaster the way African Americans are living in many cases, and in many cases the way Hispanics are living. And I say it with such a deep felt feeling. What do you have to lose?
Trump described a world of squalor and hopelessness, offering himself as a potential savior.
You can go to war zones in countries that we're fighting, and it's safer than living in some of our inner cities.
All right, so the effort to get African Americans pumped up from the 3% that he has to, 5 or 6, notwithstanding. For those of you who really felt the hook of the immigration, we're going to ship them all back, we're going to deport them all, we're going to get them, they're all going back to where they're supposed to come from, and then there'll be a friendly way to let them back in. That thing's over. He took one meeting with advisors, finally, to figure out how in the heck it would work, and it's over. Now, I can't wait to talk to you on the radio about this, because the phones all of a sudden go eerily quiet over this excitement that everybody had months ago about him being the immigration, new sheriff in town. It's quite unbelievable. I mean, right now, he's more or less touting that the president, the current one, is doing the right and good job on this. So what's left? Extreme vetting, it seems, right? That's all we've got, right?
I call it extreme vetting.
Yeah, you call it extreme vetting, Donald, and we're trying to figure out what that means. Is it an ideological test? And the gentleman on the right, well, the gentleman in the middle was here last week, and the gentleman on the right is Omar Bah, who's a journalist and who's done some significant work on this issue, is now a local guy, although he's got some story. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it so much.
Sure.
You are a refugee. You've got a heck of a story. You're a journalist now. You work locally, but you had a rough go in 2007, correct?
Yes. Actually, 2006,
Okay.
I was tortured and escaped from Gambia, my native country, as a political reporter. Escaped and lived in a camp in Ghana for a year and was resettled in Rhode Island a year later. So I arrived here in 2007. And I've been working here trying to help the refugee community in Rhode Island. That is about 200 people coming to the state a year, an average of that. So we help them with housing, jobs, and case management, ESL, English language classes, and employment. And founded the Refugee Dream Center because of that kind of work.
You have a short thought on Donald Trump all of a sudden kind of throwing the thrusters back here on this immigration, deportation thing?
Well, I think the refugees are just an extended receiver of the
the refugee
immigration.
conversation and the mostly Latino population that he's talking about are two separate conversations under the concept of who can come in, who can't.
Exactly.
So just as a journalist, do you have a thought on what Donald Trump is doing now, just in, you know, weaving the whole immigration thing back, the deportation thing back?
Well, I think he should have met with advisors earlier on because, as you rightly stated, he met with advisors just once and he is coming to his senses. Because initially, you know, somebody running for president of the United States is not a joke. And, you know, he's making a mockery of his campaign by flip-flopping. He did it with Iraq. You know, there was a video that came at some point showing that he supported it at some point. And now he's doing the same with immigration. And God knows what he's going to do with the African-American community and now with the refugee community. Actually, it was ban of Muslims, total ban of Muslims. Now it's extreme vetting. At some point,
Right.
I can predict Donald Trump will come and say, all right, the refugees are not ISIS, and refugees can come, and he will flip-flop on that, I can bet.
All right, when we come back, let's talk about what the practical answers are. Stay with us.
We should only admit into this country those who share our values and respect our people. In the Cold War, we had an ideological screening test. The time is overdue to develop a new screening test for the threats we face today.
So nearly 10 years ago, or about 10 years ago, Omar Bah came to this country after fleeing his home country of Gambia. When you say torture, was it bad?
Very bad. I was arrested, put in a military camp. Literally, it's like a concentration camp of our current day, and beaten up with gold butts by soldiers or militia that are tied to the warlord who's ruling the country.
For how long?
Yeah. It happened several times. You know, that specific time that I was arrested and put in a camp, I was there for overnight and beaten up until I bled to coma. And on other occasions, I was taken to the secret agencies called the NIA.
I mean, that's a whole show in and of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, how'd you get out of that deal?
So I got a tip off one day because I was writing about corruption and secret killings. There was a group of soldiers that were arrested, that like what is happening in Turkey currently. A lot of soldiers were being rounded up because they were suspected of trying to overthrow the warlord, dictator Jammeh, and they were killed and buried in mass graves. So I was investigating and writing about those, and the regime did not like it, so the dictator ordered that I be killed, and actually he asked for my head. So I got a tip-off and had to start an escape journey. So I went in through that journey. It took a whole day and night, and at some point I was almost caught at a bridge. But a soldier that was searching the vehicle I was in was a schoolmate some years earlier in school, and he let me pass, but I was going to be caught and killed. And that's how I got out of the country.
Well, a belated welcome to America.
Thank you.
You got here, give me the short version, that you got here through official channels?
Yes. So when I was in Ghana, the U.S. Embassy there was very much following my case, what was happening, and they contacted the human rights organizations that were helping me in Ghana, where I was living as a refugee in tents. And when I was introduced to the U.S. Embassy staff, they started processing me because they wanted me to be out of Africa as soon as possible, because the dictator was still announcing my name and pictures, and I was blasting my pictures across the media on TV and on newspapers that I was a wanted man for writing about the regime. And the U.S. Embassy made sure that my case was expedited. So I spent 1 year, even though it was expedited, it usually takes a lot of time. So those that are not expedited take a long, long time, sometimes 5, 10 years for people to leave refugee camps and be resettled. So I ended up in Rhode Island. Did not know Rhode Island. I had no idea. I never heard of the name Providence or Rhode Island until the day before I arrived. I came, no family or friend. I started from scratch and built my life from zero. Started from zero. So just coming out of the conversation of Trump,
yes,
I'm very grateful to the American people and the American nation itself, because imagine somebody coming here at age 27, not knowing anybody, no family or friend, and starting from scratch. And today I built an agency helping other people, hundreds of people a year. For me, I think that's only possible in America. So I think in as much as we have the kind of tense political discourse, we have to recognize the goodness of this country and what we've been able to achieve.
The Refugee Dream Center is your project. You began working for the West Helmwood Housing Corporation. Fascinating story, obviously. How did you end up in Rhode Island? I mean, they just dropped you here?
Yeah, well, that's what the U.S. government does. When the State Department processes refugees that they want to bring, and it involves extreme vetting that Trump was talking about. People are vetted. They investigate everything about you, what you've done, who are your friends, your relatives. They draw family trees. Everything that you've done, your life, your interactions, your utterances, your travels, your relatives, what they've done, what they're involved in, your political thinkings. In fact, some information, some story, ideas about your beliefs. In fact, they ask about your religion and all the details that everybody thinks is not asked about.
So,
and then
so it's not new news. Donald Trump thinks he's reinventing the wheel. Yeah. The wheel's turning in the refugee process anyway.
Yeah. So for me, spent 1 year, people are telling me, wow, you have been sought after 1 year. And you are still in Africa. You could have been caught, but it takes more than that.
Well, it's been a kind of an interesting conversation going on, because I've been asking what people think about this notion in this concept of extreme vetting, that you'll have to actually offer some religious thoughts, as if that's not something that you have discourse on anyway. For those who want to do harm to the country, they're not going to fill out a questionnaire in an accurate way anyway, correct?
Exactly.
You had nothing to hide.
Exactly. And I just want to say this. No one wants a terrorist to enter this country. I would advocate for what is already happening to be done even in a more efficient way, so that we make sure anybody entering this country is safe and loves this country, because that is the bottom line. However, I don't think that is not happening currently. It's already happening. So to just kind of create a new wave of concerns that terrorists are coming, ISIS is coming, I think it's a way of just exactly what happened with the immigration community, with the Latino community. He's just trying to create a situation where people can be compartmentalized, as I said before. Muslims hate us, or the refugees that are coming are Muslims, and the Muslims are ISIS. So basically, he's trying to mix these three terms together. Muslim, ISIS, and refugees. And refugees are completely different. They're actually, most of the refugees, especially those coming from Africa, are not even Muslims in the first place. So, and even Syria, a lot of refugees, not the majority, are not Muslims. Actually, they are Christian minorities, or they are victims of ISIS themselves. That does not mean vetting should not happen. Extreme vetting should happen. Everything should happen as you stated. It is not, the wheel is already rolling. But to just create a situation where people who may find a reason to support you because they now have an opportunity to hate a particular group because they fear them or fear a certain neighbor. I think that is what exactly is happening. And that's what, because when we talk about immigration or people coming from another part of the world, it's not only Syrians actually. A lot of Africans are coming, a lot of Congolese are coming, Bhutanese are coming. The U.S., through the formal way, resettles more refugees than any country in the entire world. Now, I've heard a lot of stories about Canada, Germany, and others. The U.S., bottom line, is the highest resettlement country in the world. And that is not because we are forced to do so, it's because out of generosity. But the 70,000 people that come a year go through very extreme vetting.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about how the Dream Center is working. Stay with us.
Great.
Clearly, Omar's got a heck of a personal story, and he's on a mission. And boy, you offer respect for the country. I got to offer you a lot of respect for being the ultimate self-starter. You know, in a decade's time, you've got this thing called the Refugee Dream Center in South Providence. How many people is it serving right now?
Well, we serve hundreds of people a year, at least 50 people a week. And combined, at least 100 people.
And specifically, you're doing what for people?
Well, we do ESL classes. We have teachers that teach refugees, mostly adults, how to learn functional English. Because we believe if you do not read and write English, even at the basic level to be able to speak English, you cannot integrate better in this country. You must be able to integrate, have at least a job, and then progress and be able to serve, get out of the welfare system, and then be independent and self-sufficient to help your family. We also help with after-school programs. When adults come to class in the evenings, they bring their children. So there are others helping them, playing and doing homework with
people from all over the world? From
all over the world, Iraqis, Syrians, Congolese, Bhutanese, people from different parts of the world that are brought in through the refugee resettlement process that the State Department does. And then most of these people, all of them actually have papers, as they say. They pay their tickets. The tickets are through loans that they don't have to pay initially, but after 6 months, they pay them later afterwards. So they're struggling within the first 6 months to get jobs and be self-sufficient. So, but it's not literally possible for somebody to be able to read and write English within 6 months. So what we do is we help them to gain this English proficiency after 6 months, so that it continues, the services are continued. We also do case management, where people are helped to apply, search, and apply for jobs, and then prepare them for interview skills and resume building, so that they can be independent. The goal is for independent, self-sufficient, so that people can be out of the welfare system and take care of their families. And then the hope is also to give back to the community. You don't want America to pay your ticket or give you at least a zero-interest loan, give you food stamps, pay rent for you for a while, and you continue to stay like that. Everybody has to work and then move away for new people to be able to benefit from the same system, but also to say it's a way of saying thank you to the community, to the society, but also to the country as a whole. So it's a challenge, though.
You know, I think you know, it's a blessing that you came on here today, and I think what this is, you know, it's an overdue conversation in this forum and platform. I need you to come on the radio sometime soon and talk more about this. But the moral of this story is the prediction that you think Trump will probably retreat to a position of normalcy, not unlike what he's done with the immigration situation when it comes to refugees. The other moral of the story, and I only have a few seconds here, is that you guys are operating under the radar. Most of Americans and Rhode Islanders don't even know the good work that you're doing.
That's true. That's very, very true.
Right.
And we count on the support of the people that, you know, see our work and come and support us.
All right. Come back. Good to meet you, man.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Final word when we come back. Stay with us.
Yeah.
So we're beefing up our social media presence and an opportunity for your state of mind to be heard. So here's some sites where you should be contacting us. Of course, you know, we're on Facebook at Dan Yorke Show, and of course at Dan Yorke State of Mind, DY State of Mind, on Twitter. In fact, you can also tweet at Dan Yorke Show as well. And then, of course, on Instagram, something I still don't understand, but Lexi does, so you'll be all set. We'll see you on the radio tomorrow at 3 and right back here tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.